can start another section of our meeting today, which is the case studies presentation. And during this session, we will have 4 presentations by 4 different institutions or organizations. And then we will have time for a short Q&A with all the presenters, all the panelists at the very end. So you can post your questions in the chat box while listening to presentations, and we will collect them. Or you can just wait until the end of all the presentations, and then you can just appear on the screen with your voice and video on to ask your questions. So without further ado, I would like to introduce our first speakers today. And again, each presentation is 15 minutes, and I will be here to take care for the time and remind you, or like give you a discreet sign if it's already 20 minutes or something. We'll start with the presentation by our colleagues from the digital memory program that we have already mentioned at least a few times today, Patrick and Sebastian from Documentation Center Nuremberg. So Patrick, Sebastian, the floor is yours.
Hi,
hello.
Hi. Thank you for the warm welcome. So we're very happy to be part of this exciting event. And yeah, my name is Sebastian Tröger. I'm an artist and part of the scientific team of the Documentation Center, former Nazi Party rally grounds in Nuremberg. And yeah, as you said, today it's not only me, but also Dr. Patrick Ruckdeschel, who represents a very important part of the entire team within the project. Maybe you want to introduce yourself.
Yeah, hello, and thanks for a warm welcome. Really happy to be here. And I started as an artist too, then went into sciences, media education, and did my PhD in how to learn using video games and how to analyze didactic video games and video games in general. And now I'm running a video game company, and yeah, let's see what we can give you today, and looking forward to your feedback.
Yeah, so start sharing my screen. I hope you see it in a few seconds.
Yes, we can see it.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, as part of the EVZ Foundation's international funding program, Digital Memory, we are working on the development of the serious game behind the scenes Nuremberg 34. And at the moment, the team of the Documentation Center is working on the process of a digital redesign. So in 3 or 4 years, we will have a new permanent exhibition and a so-called Media and Research Center. The conception of these new areas is the focus of my work. And the serious game project is the starting point of this exciting process. The main idea was to find a new and attractive format for a young generation that reflects their own reality of life and makes a historical event accessible and tangible in a critical but also motivating way. And yeah, in a place that is mainly associated with perpetration, we wanted to thematize the propaganda images and ideology that continue to have an effect to the daily life today, for example, in the school books and so on. And we wanted to contrast the seemingly collective perspective with the individual view. So the idea was born to work with the format of a serious game as a digital format for knowledge transfer. The serious game represents a central building block within the new conception of our institutions. So it functionally equal as a link between established forms of historical political education work but there's a creative technical innovation potential with our, if you think of our cooperation partners. But we had to find an experienced team to implement our visions. And yeah, I show you a short overview of our cooperation partners. So a first user version based on historic documents, time witness accounts and recorded material is being created in collaboration with the comic artist Hamid Eshrad the game developers of Socrates Laboratories, Dr. Ruckdeschel, the academic chair didactics of history of the Friedrich Alexander University in Erlangen-Nuremberg, the art director Eva Beham, translator, actress, and artist Anna Stewart in Dolby, Germany. And yeah, to illustrate the development process in more detail, you can see a graphic here. We start doing a basic research in archives with a focus on the 1934 party rally, the year in which Riefenstahl shot her propaganda movie Triumph of the Will. Then we started to write a script from the research results and historical sources. At the same time, we thought about the visual, sound, and media concept. And yeah, the whole project is participative, but as you already mentioned, it's not that easy, especially in times of global pandemic. But we were able to test the first prototype in different school classes, and this procedure will also be continued in the future. So the narrative style and aesthetic realization are inspired by animated graphic novels in order to reach the young target group who are between 14 and 20 years old. So we start with the narration in the present, and flashbacks bring old photos to life. The artistic implementation helps to discuss the topic complexes on a neutral level, as it can be identified from the outset as a structured narrative. The users can experience the event of the Nuremberg Rally back in 1934 from various perspectives. And through individual portrayals of in-game characters in digital and interactive scenes. Maybe Patrick, you want to add something to the pedagogical concept?
Yeah, sure. So at the beginning, we asked ourselves, how do we get our content or the huge amount of content into a game? And the first problem is that usually in a game you can win, but we didn't want the player to succeed in any way. So there was no winning. And we did want to tell a story, but at the same time we knew we cannot just tell one story and say this is the truth, this is how it happened. So we decided on a grid in which you can move. So you have 3 main persons and a number of secondary characters, and you can switch from a person to another and move through the grid of the events. And then you see some events from many perspectives, and then you can make up your own impression of the event. So it seemed a good solution to avoid stereotypes like this. Those people are in this role only, but you see them from 3 perspectives. Yeah, that was the basic main idea. And yeah, it all started with the learning theory of Gregory Bateson, who says you need, in short, who says you need many impressions to learn one thing, and that was the starting point for the game's structure. So, and sorry, Sebastian, I see your mouse. You are keen on continuing, but one more sentence. So there was no winning. In the end, if you discover everything, then in a way you won. Then when you feel like now I have enough information, then the game ends. And to make this even stronger, we have not only those persons, we have also things you can collect, and you discover the backgrounds of, let's say, a cameraman with what does a cameraman do, what was his role, with what technological devices did he deal, and this just adds up to this structure of exploration. So, ready, Sebastian.
Thank you. So yeah, we added many functions to support the gamification experience. For example, you can collect photographies, letters, drawings, and discover exciting side stories that serve as a link between the prologue and epilogue. And map animations help to orientate oneself more easily and serve as a transition between the individual scenes. So as Patrick said, the users get to know the reality of life of the main characters and can change their perspectives on key scenes. This enables the historical event to be experienced from multiple perspectives, and we show both the fascinating and the violent dimensions of the regime and the individual scope for action. But what is important for us is that the users do not slip into the role of a perpetrator or victim, but rather get to know their attitudes. Our approach brings historical events to life and makes them accessible. Of course, this requires a high level of responsibility in order not to overwhelm the young target group or to generate empathy and fascination for dangerous ideology. So thanks again to Victoria, because we show the victims' individual perspectives at the perpetrator's location, and it's an important question that you were asking: which pictures do we want to show and who is in focus? For example, we use photos of the perpetrators of the November pogrom in one scene from 1938, but we transferred, and there was an artistic transformation, and we focus on the perspective of the victims. I can show it later if you want to. So Patrick also talked about the point of that we show the production context of propaganda media. So propaganda media is being revealed and historic relations are illustrated by means of so-called stories of things. And this will give a young and international audience with a strong media influence a new approach to dealing with the history of National Socialism and contribute to an individual socio-political positioning. So to our planning, the development process is completed at the end of October, and we can evaluate and adjust the results with the target group. At the end of the year, the application will then be available on tablets in the museum's interims exhibition. And we may offer a download version for selected institutions if we have collect more experiences with the target group. And maybe there's an offer for guided groups. I hope you enjoy the first exemplary scenes. Of course, it would be more fun and interesting for you if you could click through the scenes, but this will be able soon, and this will be possible soon in the end of the year. So furthermore, we're working on a microsite that explains the basic ideas and gives information about the project. And in the end of the year, we will promote the serious game in a social media campaign. Yeah, I think that's it for now. I want to thank you for the invitation and the foundation, Alvarez Lab, and so on, that we got the chance to realize our ideas. And thank you for your attention. And we're looking forward to the discussions and questions. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Sebastian and Patrick, for the presentation. And it looks really great. And I already have some questions, and I hope our audience also have questions. So stay with us, and we will come back to you in the Q&A session. And now we will move forward to the second presentation in this case study session. Again, this will be a presentation by our colleagues from the Digital Memory Program. This time it's Nina and Christian from Arolsen Archives. Arolsen Archive was also mentioned by Victoria during her talk. And now Nina and Christian will talk about marbles of remembrance. So again, thank you for accepting our invitation, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I'd like to point out I'm the only one from the Arolsen Archives, and Nina and her colleagues are in fact from Fabula, which is our partner on this project. So it's a joint project between the two of us. Oh, the presentations.
Yes, sorry, I had to switch on my audio beforehand because I cannot do anything if it's on.
Excellent. Okay, great. Yeah, so thank you very much for having us. We're very happy to present our project Marbles of Remembrance, a chatbot on Jewish children in Berlin in the Nazi era. As I already mentioned, this project was developed as a joint project of the Arolsen Archives and Fabula, and was also supported by the EVZ Foundation in the context of the Digital Memory Program, as already mentioned. So I think we can go to the next slide. Yeah, maybe just for those of you who don't know or haven't heard of the Arolsen Archives, who provided much of the data, which is the foundation for the chatbot, are the largest collection in the world on the victims of Nazi persecution. We're situated in central Germany, in Bad Arolsen, and we were founded after World War II as the so-called International Tracing Service. The institution was renamed in 2019 to Arolsen Archives, and we keep over 30 million documents on the victims of the Nazis, and these documents contain information on 17.5 million individuals who were persecuted by the Nazis. And the three main sub-collections of the archives are constituted of concentration camp records, records on forced labor, and records on displaced persons. And I think we'll move on to the next slide. Out of these 30 million documents, for this particular project, we focused on one sub-collection in particular, and that was the collection of the so-called Reich Association of Jews in Germany. Many of you will know this was an institution or association that was subject to the Gestapo during the Nazi era, and the task of the Reich Association was to, among other responsibilities, to register all persons in Germany who were considered Jews in accordance with the Nuremberg laws, the so-called Nuremberg race laws. And so we have a lot of the files from the Reich Association in our archives today. And you can see an example on the right. This is a so-called student card, of which we have roughly 11,000 within this sub-collection. The cards are organized alphabetically by name. And these cards were used in the Holocaust, or as part of the administrative side of the Holocaust. For instance, the Gestapo used these Reich Association cards and these student cards to select individuals for deportation. So 11,000 student cards, as already mentioned, and these contain personal details and also information on schooling. So in particular, which school did a Jewish child attend? And here we're focusing on the cards from Berlin. And these form the main databases for the Marbles Remembrance project. Next slide, please. Yeah, so what is Marbles Remembrance? What is a chatbot? Marbles Remembrance is an interactive and GPS-based chatbot. So it means this is an application essentially that you can access through Telegram. So it's not a standalone app, but it's a service that is available via the messenger service Telegram. We initially wanted to do this with WhatsApp, but there was some technical issues or barriers that unfortunately we weren't able to do that. And we chose Telegram instead as an alternative platform. And yeah, what are the overall goals of the project? So in addition to the actual subject at hand, that is the life and persecution of Jews, and particularly Jewish children in Berlin during the Nazi era. The didactic goals, going beyond the content, are that we want to contribute to an increasingly digital culture of learning and knowledge transfer. So the idea was to create an educational tool that is genuinely digital and not just like a traditional format that has been transferred into the digital sphere. The idea behind the project is also to make forgotten history that is preserved in archives, to make it visible in daily life, for instance, by making information on individuals that we keep in our archives visible within the cityscape of Berlin. And you'll see how we do that in a bit. And of course, a chatbot by its very nature, or using an application like Telegram, enables user-centered and interactive learning. So the idea is not just to present information, but also to introduce an interactive and thereby participatory element. And that was, one of the goals that we had in mind. So, so much for the background of the partners and the concept and the project's idea. And I think I'm now handing over to my colleagues from Fabula, who will tell you more about how we put this together and what the features of the chatbot are.
Yes, thank you, Christian. Yes, Marbles of Remembrance is not just a solo, like a simple Q&A or support chatbot, as many of you maybe know from various websites, but consists of 5 functions, which are 2 tours, 3 rallies, Ask Me, Surroundings, and a help section to support the users. And now to show you how it works in more depth, we would like to show you a video. And it will be the German, or the almost ready German chatbot, but it will give a good impression of the functions and the final outcome.
Yeah, I'm working on the video. Sorry. Let's see. Okay. Bear with me. It's opening. Okay, got it. Now I'll share it. So can you see the video?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, excellent. So I'll press play.
Yes, so after starting the chatbot, the user can choose the features in the menu bottom. And choosing, for example, one of the 2 city tours, users learn about the life stories of Zvi Aviram and Hanni Levi-Weißenberg, who went into hiding in Berlin as Jewish children and subsequently survived Nazi persecution. The tours feature multimedia material such as texts, infographics, collages, and eyewitness accounts, as you can hear or could have heard. Moreover, choosing from one of the 3 rallies, the users will be able to learn more about the diversity of Jewish life in Berlin and the hardships of a variety of children. While the tours and rallies are designed in a similar way, the 3 rallies feature quiz elements so that the user can test their knowledge interactively and receive the location information to the next stop. In addition, the users are able to post questions to the chatbot, for example, for background information on the Holocaust or on the archival holdings on which the chatbot is based. Furthermore, the users can access location-based information and find out which children lived close to their position or which Jewish landmarks can or were to be found in their vicinity.
Okay.
Right.
So it's back to the PDF.
And now my colleagues Leonardo and Hannah will go more into depth of how we developed the chatbot, how the process came about.
Yeah, so I would like to give a glimpse on the process. Basically, the process you could divide into 4 different phases, which, to be honest, happen in parallel. For example, data preparation is the first phase, and then comes to content production acquisition, content app management, and publication. So I will present data preparation. My colleague Hannah will gonna talk about content production, and then I will continue until the rest to publication. Next slide. Okay, so in this in data-driven projects, always we have to start with the data. So we start to get, okay, so what are the data sets we have available? What is contained inside of the data sets? And what those data sets allow? So we wanted to do a location-based chatbot in the sense that the bot would guide you to a tour in Berlin. So one of the criteria or requirements for this data set is exactly addresses. Right? So if you don't have such kind of information, you're not able to do a location-based. Then you could try to do enrichment to enrich the data. And this is something that we have used because we have the addresses, but we didn't have the geolocations. And the geolocations were sometimes very important because those addresses were also, they were not up to date anymore. They didn't exist. But through research, we found out some geocodes to pin those addresses. And once you have many of those data sets, so for example, we use the Katai-Kata, we use the deportation lists, we created another data set for the landmarks. Then we have to connect them all. We have to, it's a process that's called merging. And yeah, so, and this is the data part of it. I would like, so based on the data, just to give you an introduction, based on the data, we have produced the content, we have gone to the storytelling. And about that, my colleague Hannah can talk.
Yes, hi everyone. Next slide, please. So one of the first steps we took during the concept creation was to find children who lived in the area we were interested in. There were many criteria we needed to take into account while doing that. For instance, are we able to find enough information on the fate of the chosen child, or are we able to find enough locations connected to their stories? Are distances between each location the right length? And would it be possible to create a walkable tour out of the chosen locations? So another task or challenge was how to make the stories compelling and most of all engaging for the younger audience. So we decided to produce and to enrich the chatbot with various types of media, like audio, images, maps, links, etc. And we chose to approach the design of the chatbot in a similar manner as we would when we are creating an app, book, or website. So even though the chatbot doesn't seem to be a visually flexible medium, we decided to make the stories rich in interesting visuals that would make the whole experience of using the marbles more entertaining and engaging. So to achieve that, we produced headers that would help the user to navigate through the chat. We produced location indicators that would inform the user where he or she is headed and how many stops are left to reach the final destination. We also produced cards for each of the tours that would work as thumbnails, which the user could use to enter and start the chosen tour. Each stop also had its own collage related to the topic of the location. One of the criteria we needed to take into account was to include some of the Arolsen Archives cards into the collages. We also designed infographics presenting some of the important information in an easy to understand way, as well as quotation images that added some visual interest to otherwise plain text messages. So in the next step, we had to build a connection between our platform and Telegram, place all the produced content on Artifacts, and then Artifacts would feed the chatbot with all the needed information and media. So one of the challenges we faced during the production was the acquisition of images and copyrights. We didn't anticipate how much time it would take us, and those were months of research of images related to the stories, and then lots of investigative work of finding the right copyright owners, reaching out to them, weeks, sometimes even months of exchanging emails, explaining the purpose of the project, how will the images be used, etc., etc. And lastly, putting all the copyrights together, writing descriptions. We had 40 stops altogether. So, and each of the collages had at least two free images. So we had to had quite a lot of copyright issues solved, and not to mention lots of images that were dropped on the way. So Leonardo, it's your time.
You're muted, Leonardo. We can't hear you.
So we can move forward, talk about the last parts of the process. Yes. So, okay. So we had all this, the data sets, we had the stories created, we had the locations, we had the material, and now we had to come up with a solution to synchronize that all, and also to process the user inputs. And this is our platform that we have utilized for this project to manage that. It's the brain behind the chatbot. It's what processes the user inputs, what organizes the tours, shows the user the right locations, and etc. And yeah, and one of the things that we also do in this chatbot is the analytics. Can we move to the next slide, please? So lastly, when we had everything put on the platform, we also finally published on Telegram. So in this, if I could describe the background, technical background of this project, we have the data, the platform that manages the information, and the channel, which is the medium that we use in this project, which is the Telegram chat. And also, what is important here is that we are building also an analytics module, in the sense that as a way to improve the chatbot, we gather the inputs that the user types on the chat, and with that, in an anonymous way, we're able to analyze and make some improvements for next versions. And that's my part.
And then I'll take over for the final words. So we hope we were able to provide you with a good overview of what Marvels of Remembrance is about, and about the features that the chatbot will offer to users. And yeah, we look forward to your questions or remarks, and we'd like to close with just telling you that it will probably be available. Will be available from November 1st. So you'll be able to access Marvels of Remembrance, both the English version and the German version, using the Telegram Messenger. You'll be able to search for the bot directly in the application. But I mean, everyone who is in some way or another connected to the digital memory program will know, because we'll be spreading the news, obviously, once it's available. Or you can keep an eye on, our newsletters or social media profiles of the Arolsen Archives or Fabula, so that you don't miss the chatbot once it's available. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for sharing the details of this amazing and impressive work that you've done. So I'm looking forward to questions that the audience might have to you. I also have some. And now we will move forward to the third presentation. And the third presentation will be delivered by Neringa Latvytė. I hope I pronounced the name correctly. If not, I apologize. And Neringa represents the Department of Digital Cultures and Communications at the Vilnius University. And she'll be talking about the Holocaust Atlas of Lithuania as an experimental tool to teach, learn, and manage trauma. So Neringa, the floor is yours.
Yes. Hi, hello. Thank you for for this very warm welcome, and I'm really very happy, to be here and to present our, little project which we started, in 2011, so actually many years ago. Yes, but actually it's still, which is still very important, not only in Lithuania, but I guess that in all, Baltic states and actually in all Eastern Europe. So I will share my screen and we will start to talk. Yes, I hope you can see.
Yes, we can see your slides.
So actually my presentation is about the Holocaust Atlas of Lithuania as an experimental tool to teach, learn and manage trauma, and actually what it is about. Yeah, so actually this is, this is the low budget MySQL database which we, launched in 2011 after getting, the support from the Office of the Prime Minister of Lithuania. Why only in 2011? Because at that, time, we commemorated 70 years after the beginning of the Second World War here in Lithuania, and actually there was a great opportunity to ask, for some financial support, which we did not, receive for ages. Yes, I am talking like we, us, because this is the project done by the Vilnius Gaon Jewish State Museum. At that time, I was working there. I have been working at the Jewish Museum for 20 years. Only 2 years ago, I switched from my this working place at the museum to the university, and I am related to this project as one of the managers of the project. Yeah, so actually why it was, so important, what was so important? Yeah, so it was very important really for us to research, to locate, also to fill the gap or to fill in the information gap, and actually to communicate about the mass extermination sites in Lithuania. Yes, that actually for years, really for decades, these places were really forgotten in Lithuania, despite, as you see, yes, that actually we are talking about at the moment, even, more than 227, such places that appeared in Lithuania starting from July 1941 until July 1942. So for us, it was really very important, first of all, to pay attention to these, forgotten sites, a lot of forgotten sites. Yeah, so with this purpose, yes, we visited, my colleagues and me, we visited all these, places. And it was very important for us to locate, monuments erected at the mass, extermination sites, really to mark these places, not only, to find them, which was also very, very challenging at that time, but also to give, this digital marking. One thing. Another thing, it was, important for us to collect and to concentrate all available information on the sites. Yes, all documents, yes, that we were talking, not only about the victims, but we were talking, also about the perpetrators. Yes, so, and also to show what is, at that time, what is nowadays situation that the sites, yes, how the sites look like. Yeah, so actually, if to talk about, this little, statistics, so actually we are talking about 200, now, a bit more, let's say about 230 mass extermination places, what are scattered all around Lithuania. Yes, so actually in 10 districts. So if to be, more precise, so there is no any single town in Lithuania that you would not find, you know, a mass extermination site there, or in the surroundings, or in the neighborhood. Yeah, this. So actually, you can see what, you know, more or less we are talking about. Yes, so we are talking about 106, you know, historical objects based on the Soviet Lithuania, you know, register from 1973. We are talking about, you know, 152 extermination places of Soviet citizens, as these, you know, places they were called, you know, during the Soviet times. Yes, if you know, we are coming back to more recent, you know, history. So actually we are talking about 208 mass extermination sites known as memorial places. Yes, 189 these places were considered as, you know, object of cultural heritage. Yes, and you know, 147 such places they are included into the register of cultural heritage. So it means that they are under the protection of the state. Yeah, so again, you know, we are talking about mass extermination sites, and there is a bit, you know, I can say that there is a bit of mess or messy understanding what it is. So, for example, after we visited and after we, you know, registered all these, you know, sites, yeah, so what we discovered that actually 25% of the mass extermination sites of Jews, they are considered as mass murder sites and grave sites. Yes, just in general, yes, without any understanding, yes, just mass extermination site and grave site. Who are the victims, you know, who were, you know, buried at that, you know, places? It's not, you know, it was not clear. So this is in 2011. Yes, 25% of all these places, they were named as cemeteries. Yes. 28% they were not included into the heritage register, so it means that these sites they did not have any protection. Yes, only, you know, 17% of all these sites they were considered as mass murder sites of Jews. Yes, and you know, of Jews from one or another place. Yes. 2% of these sites they were considered as all Jewish cemeteries. 2% of the sites they were unclear. Yes, let's say we can talk about 3/4 that they are located in Kaunas, and you know the Jews were exterminated there. But actually, until nowadays, you know, these forts, they are not considered as mass extermination sites of Jews. They are considered as, you know, a heritage objects from the Tsar, you know, period. Yes, or some other, you know, they are given, you know, as places like fortification places, but there is no any, you know, linking to the mass extermination sites. Yes, and 1% of all these sites, you know, have title of like places of genocide. Yeah, so actually, this is how the Holocaust Atlas looks like, and the atlas is in Lithuanian and in English. Yes, the main information actually, you know, was the main information is in Lithuanian. Yes, so not everything is available in English. And I stop here, you know, sharing my PowerPoint presentation, and I will share, you know, another screen where I will show you how it works. Yes, how we can make, you know, search of the site. So actually, here is the atlas, and we have, you know, some you know, blocks. So this is the home page. Yes, so here we have information about the project. Yes, and as you see, actually, we were, you know, only 3 people who started the project. So actually, the curator at that time was my colleague Milda. And, you know, here we also had, you know, few volunteers and me. Yeah, so this is about shortly about the project. Actually, what we are talking about here is we are talking about Holocaust sites. Yeah, so we can find, different, all available actually sites of the mass extermination of Jews. These sites, they are also marked. They are also marked on the map. Yes, you can see. You can press on the icon, and you can get, short information about. Yes, you can have here an advanced search. Yes, you can type a keyword, or you can search by location, by date, by the perpetrator. Yes, so you can search, here there is a list of the mass extermination sites. Also, you can make, search by location, yes, by years, also by victim numbers. Yeah, so, and I will show you how it looks like when you open. Yeah, so actually this is about mass extermination site in Ruckdeschel. So it is possible to find, like historical information, what happened, when happened. You can find information about perpetrators, how to find the place. Yes, at that time, especially, in 2011, it was very important, yes, to mark the location and to provide, visitors the information, how to find it, how to go, where to go, because, yes, we have in mind that most of these locations, they were located, let's say, how to say, like nowhere in the middle of the woods or somewhere in the middle of the fields. Yes, and it was not so simple really to find. Yeah, so how to find the location? Then we put information about, monument. Yes, actually, yes, whether the place is marked with the monument, but they're not. Whether the place is, under the state protection, either not, also inscription. What is written on the inscription of the monument? And of course, bibliography. This was very, very important, yes, to let the visitors also to know from where it is taken, yes, or to go, deeper into this. What else? So actually, here also we cooperated with the Cultural Heritage Department. And, based on our project, based on the Holocaust Atlas in Lithuania, the Cultural Heritage Department was also able to improve their database about cultural heritage objects under the state protection. Yeah, so here is the link. If you want to see, what is written, how, Cultural Heritage Department, considers this object. So unfortunately, this is only, despite it is written that it's English also available, but it is not. Yeah. So yes, you can see, how it looks at the Cultural Heritage Department. Yes, it is written that this is the mass extermination site of the Jews, and mass extermination and burial site of the Jews. So actually, this is, how the site, how the information about the site, looks like. Here we have information about, the perpetrators. Also, it is possible to go to another, database of the names of the Holocaust victims. Yes, so not only to talk about the places, but also to talk about the victims, to know, who were killed, on one or another place. Yeah, so actually, what if about, briefly to talk about audience, so you can see, what was our audience, what we were thinking about when we decided, to create, this database. Yes, so also, what are, the benefits, yes, of the database? Also, so you can see what is possible, what was very important for us, yes, and the most important maybe thing was to connect, events, places, and memory, and to encourage commemorative activities, to pay attention to these, forgotten little, sites. And actually here we really succeeded, yes, because based, on the information which, Holocaust Atlas database, provided visitors with, we encourage local communities to organize commemorational events, such like reading the names of the Holocaust victims in the authentic sites. Yeah, so this is, you can see, pictures of all the events. And also what was very important and what is very important if you want to do something like this. Yeah, so actually, if we are talking about traumatic heritage, traumatic past, a Holocaust extermination sites, yes, and if you want to do something, yes, if you want to pay attention, if you want to communicate, if you want to share, yes, so first of all, you have to have motivation, dedication, creativity. You have to believe in what you do, because actually we were 3 people who started, this project. You have to have supportive team. You have to have in mind that this is daily maintenance. This is daily work. What is really also the most crucial, cooperation with professionals. Yes, the researchers, yes, the scientists who would help you, with the historical context, yes. Also, the local municipalities who would provide you with the information about the status of the place, local activists, of course, academia, yes. But it's important, to pay also at what is important if you want to pay attention to these places, participatory activities of the local society, yes. Also, this, heritage matter attitude. Healing by talking. Yes, we have to talk about traumatic past. Yes, this is how we heal. We should not, we should not talk only about the victims. We have to talk also about the perpetrators. And actually in Lithuania, it's, really, it's not that simple. It's quite, complicated. And why it is so complicated? Because still until nowadays, these places, they are somehow considered as places of the others, yes, not places of us, yes, but all the others, yes. But actually this is about us before, about us after, the Holocaust. And this is about us in the future, yes. So this should be, matter. And challenges, yes. Actually, what are these, challenges? Perception of traumatic past, competing experiences and memories. Also, very active barriers and stereotypes. It's very complicated to talk about silence, topics. And for example, yes, the database we introduced, as an experimental tools for the teachers to teach how to teach about the Holocaust, like an extra help, an extra tool, to talk. Yes, and also we wanted to encourage them to leave the classroom and to explore the place, to talk about the Holocaust on the authentic sites, where the Holocaust actually happened. Yes, and by this to extend, knowledge, to extend understanding. Yes, and what is also like 2 more moments about the challenges. So actually, it's very, it's not that simple. Yes, you can think, yes, there is a database, everything is okay, there is a lot of information, monuments and places that are under the protection of the state. But you also can say, so what? Yes, what if the places they are, what if the local population, they visit the places when there are, only commemorative events? Yes, let's say twice a year. Yeah, so it's very important to have this interaction, yes, involvement of the local society, and also continuation with the commemorational events, continuation with the understanding, yes, that I really care, I want to continue, yes, I want to somehow to relate myself, with the place, to adopt the place. Yeah, so I think that's it. I'm sorry, I took a bit, too
No worries. Thank you so much for sharing this impressive work that you've been doing. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
And we will definitely come back to you with some questions. And now we will move forward to the last presentation in this session, which is a presentation by Agnieszka Nieradko from the Zapomniane Foundation on the project Participatory Commemorations, again funded within the framework of the Digital Memory Program. So Agnieszka, I will share your slides because Agnieszka in the meantime had to switch to her phone to be able to connect with us. So
yes,
just
the big
give me the
question is
minute.
whether you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you.
Wow.
So this is an
And
important.
imagine the relief I feel right now.
Okay, so so you can tell me when to switch your slides.
Okay, thank you, Ola. So I'm about to tell you a bit about our project that we carried out within EVZ program funding. But first of all, since we have a little bit more time, a bit of background for you, who we are and what we do. So the foundation was created by the members of the Rabbinical Commission for Jewish Cemeteries in 2014. Our main goals are strictly going along with the halachic rules, which we obey, meaning the Jewish law in terms of protection and commemorating Jewish graves. So our main goal is locating unmarked graves of the Holocaust victims, finding out the borders, identifying the identity of the victims, protecting, doing whatever we can to protect the site and to protect the graves themselves, and to ensure the long-term safety. Not only the long-term objective is that the places will be, just like Neringa said it, I think it's a good word, adopted by the local community. So maybe we can switch to the next one. This halacha, the Jewish law that gives us the frames of work, it influences the way we work, because as some of you might know already, in Jewish tradition, it is forbidden to touch the grave, to open the grave, to move the bones. Where the grave is located, this is its final place of location. We can't perform any exhumation or excavation. That's why we apply only so-called non-invasive methodology. And there are various of methods, but the first thing we always start with is the testimony of a bystander or a witness of the murder, or someone who knows where the grave is, because without his testimony, all those sophisticated tools would be good for nothing, because we need a testimony of a living person who saw, either he saw the massacre or he was there afterwards and he knows, he or she, where the grave exactly is. And this is our starting points. And afterwards we can introduce tools like GPR, meaning ground penetrating radar. We can use aerial pictures, actually German aerial pictures from the World War II. We have this technology, amazing technology of airborne laser scanning, which shows, depicts the sculpture of the ground. It removes whatever is on the ground, meaning houses, trees, and you can see the depressions, you can see the changes in the ground itself. So this is our goals, and this is our these are our methods. The next step we took once we the methodology, we're still working on it, but once we have collected a vast number of the sites that we were researching, we decided to share. We decided to make it available. That's why we can skip to the next slide about about our database. We have created in 2017, we have created the first Polish database of Jewish war graves. There are obviously various databases in Poland referring to the World War II and the Holocaust itself as well. But we took this, so to say, Jewish perspective, because we want to find the grave. We understand how much it is important to tell the stories, to find out how what happened, but the most important thing for us is finding the hole in the ground and to protect it, to protect the bones. Right now, the website, the database is available in English and in Polish. We are reaching now up to 100 records, meaning 100 locations. You can find various data on this website, transcriptions of eyewitnesses' testimonies, GPR research, historical documents, very important. To give you the scale of it, what we can see on the slide, this is our map of identified sites in Poland, especially in the central, eastern, southern Poland. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of Jewish war graves that are not identified or marked in any way. So during this process, we came up with the conclusion how to what's the best guarantee of safety for this site, because we go there, we visit the places from time to time, we come back to them, but in the long-term perspective, this is the obligation or the responsibility rather than obligation, the responsibility of the local communities. So we decided to apply the most effective method of ensuring this long-term safety of a grave, meaning engaging local communities and to engage them on every stage of the research, meaning identifying, finding detail, identifying the site, finding details about the victims, and also engaging them into the process of marking and commemorating, so that they feel this is the part of their story, their local story. This is again the same thing that Neringa said. In our case, Jewish graves and and the Holocaust is not perceived as the part of the Polish history. This is something on the margin of the Polish history. So we are trying to do something about it. And one of the best solutions, and the solution we came up after some years of investigation, was where wooden matzevot. This is what you can see on the first on this picture. A piece of wood. We call it wooden matzeva, meaning a Jewish tombstone. Wooden matzeva with a universal inscription, saying very generally that this is the resting place of Jews murdered during the Holocaust. You can see the Star of David. You can see Hebrew inscription typical for Jewish tombstones. We came up with this idea in 2017. We established a collaboration with the Warsaw University of Social Sciences and Humanities, and we call it a wooden matzeva. The inscription is laser cut, engraved, not even engraved, laser cut with a laser, and the amount of places we have marked, because we call it a marker, not a memorial. The idea of wooden matzeva is to open the road for a permanent memorial, meaning a stone, meaning something to secure the grave itself from any kind of invasion. So once we started to produce wooden matzevot, we started to deliver them to different places, and the feedback we got from the local communities was amazing. We were surprised to see how a simple piece of wood with some inscription on it, very general, can make a difference for the local communities and can make a difference for the places, for the graves themselves. So the places that where used to be just holes in the ground, unidentified, and no one can tell this is the grave, thanks to wooden matzeva, it has the places became, they got some out of, from profanum to sacrum, I would say. This was the road. This is the story of these places with a simple piece of wood. And the next step was the idea, how about engaging local communities into producing a wooden matzevot? And this is what the project with EVZ was about, was to create this tool, this unique tool that combines technology and craft, wood crafting, And the idea was to take the tool to those places that we were researching for so many years and give the space to local communities, mainly young people, to give them something innovative and at the same time traditional, because the idea of marking graves of the dead one is something that we were brought up with. So, and the feedback again, it's I'm happy to say that, when we are so proud of it, the feedback was surprisingly positive. It wasn't only the technology that was the interesting component, but the stories of the murdered Jews as well. Because once you reduce the Holocaust to the specific stories of specific people, it's much easier for them, for this young generation, so-called young generation, to identify themselves with the stories and with the people killed and buried. And the next step, so the workshops with the youngsters and adults as well in some places. And the final moment is taking them to the site and putting the matzeva they did, this wooden marker, into the ground. So they were participating in the process from the very beginning, maybe not from the very beginning. We identified the site, we told them about the site, and they came up with ideas of what to put on the wooden marker, and they went to the forest to install the marker. So this is, I think, the biggest chance for the place to be commemorated by the locals and to be incorporated to the local history. And one more very positive outcome of this project is not only that we will have this tool forever, we can continue our workshops, and I can tell you that the interest in it is huge, because people, there is feedback from local communities that we work in, that they would like to have it in their place, in their schools. But also we will create scenarios of workshops that we can share with educators and students. So this is about our project, and I hope this is just only the beginning of our road with the tool that we have created. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Agnieszka, and I'm glad we could hear you and it worked.
Yes.
So now we can move to the Q&A section. So I invite all the speakers here, and I invite all the audience members to ask questions. Again, you can either ask your question by raising your hand. It means that you'd like to ask your question with your voice and video possibly on, or you can type the question or comment or remark into the chat. So whatever works better for you. And we will be waiting for your question. And while we're waiting, I have one question to Sebastian and Patrick. So the first presentation, because I was really interested by the fact that you've mentioned that you decided that the player cannot succeed in your serious game. So I wanted to ask you, so what is the driving force? So what drives the experience, or, like, to put it differently, what motivates the player if not the urge to succeed?
I think it's just his curiosity, and there is no stronger force. And if we do not succeed to motivate him and to and light his curiosity, then we have lost from the start, because we cannot force somebody. That's the basic idea of serious gaming. It is just a format to deliver content in a more motivating way. And if we fail by this basic, then there is no better way to force him. But of course, we tried to have this atmosphere of exploration. So there are some things to be discovered, but it's very Yeah, you have to be careful to not make it a game where you can succeed, where you say, okay, no, I clicked through the scene just to collect everything. I got all the collectibles and I didn't listen to the story, but hey, I got all the collectibles. So you really have to be very careful which game structure you take. And one more sentence, basically there are two game structures you can use. One is just very dynamic, very open, everything can happen. Like in a soccer match, every soccer match is a bit different, although most look the same, but basically everything could happen. And then there's just progressive storytelling. And we knew that we cannot make a dynamic game with the past, because past happened as it did, and we cannot say you can change history and you can turn it to a better ending. That's just not the right structure. So there was only narration, and but narration are very strict, and we didn't want to have a very strict narration, because who can tell? No matter how many sources you take, no matter how many discussions you have on the aesthetics, on the sound, on the dialogues, you will not really match history. And so the only try we have is give it many shots on the topic, and then hope it's accurate, motivating, and informative.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Sebastian, would you like to add anything?
Just want to add that, it's all about the narration, and this is the result of a very open research, and we asked we asked a lot of people to find different point of views and perspectives to this historical event, and out of this detailed research, we get a lot of stories you couldn't imagine by yourself, and this is all connected with historical facts. So the idea is that you learn from the past or to gain access to historical events, and it's important to find points of contact from the present. And often these are the little stories that captivate you, but these side of the scenes are rarely described in history books, for example. So we hope that our project fills exactly this gap and creates in some parts emotional contact to the past, but without leaving the facts, or how I can say it. Yeah.
Thanks a lot. I see that Agnieszka has a question, so please go ahead.
Yes, thank you. My question is actually pending from the last week EVZ event, but since there was a time pressure, so I didn't bother to ask. But I had a question for also for Patrick and Sebastian, because our colleagues from Brama Grodzka, they said last week that they faced the moment within their project that they were unable to show some message with the visual tools, that they faced the wall, that they couldn't go over, that it turned out to be some kind of, the tool they had, meaning visual tools, was some kind of obstacle. So did you have any kind of experiences like that there was some idea too complex or too difficult to show it with the tools that you had?
It's not only about complexity, it's about, is it the right picture? So half of video game development is throwing half of it away, and the same is here. We always took a look at it when it was ready, and then we thought, oh no, that's not the impression we want to give. Sometimes this is then you can use techniques known from film editing. We show it shorter. We have a black fade out. We have no music. But then again, sometimes it doesn't match, and then you have to redraw it, take another drawing. But of course, you cannot deliver everything just visually and with audio.
Thank you. I have one more question to Christian and Nina and the whole Arolsen Archive and Fabular team, because I was I was really curious whether you had like really big discussion about how to turn archival materials into attractive content, because I think this is the big obstacle with the archival materials, that they aren't visually attractive, like in many cases, or they're like quite a similar one to another, right? And you were working with archival documents, and obviously this is also like a question, because we obviously don't want to like make them, like force them to be visually attractive. So I was wondering whether you had such discussions and whether there were like limits that you set maybe to that process. Can you share something about that?
Shall I start, or yeah, okay. Maybe I'll say a couple of words about using the archival materials in general. Yeah, it really depends on the context, and it depends on the specific format. So, for instance, we have this feature in the chatbot that allows you to retrieve information from the archival metadata on individuals. So in this case, information about Jewish children who lived in various locations in Berlin, and the chatbot will tell you this and that person, this and that child lived in your vicinity, and went to this and that, was born here, and like some basic personal information. And that's kind of what I was talking about when I said, we're trying to make this somewhat abstract serial archival metadata visible within the cityscape. And that's more of an informational value there. And it doesn't have much to do with aesthetics or anything like that, or being visually appealing. And so for the tours and rallies that we created, these are much more, immersive, and it's more of an experience when you go on one of these tours throughout Berlin. And so here, I think, on the one hand, it was inevitable to use other materials in addition to archival documents. So we used, as was shown in our presentation, we used photographs, and we had audio content that we included, and Hannah created some great visuals in general, and infographics and all that. So I think there are probably limits to how impressive archival documents can be visually. And so we obviously switched things up and included various kinds of media. But then on the other hand, I'd like to stress that thanks to the visuals that Hannah created for the chatbot, we were also able to include archival documents in the tours and that we provide through the chatbot. And that definitely made them more visually appealing and more interesting, because as you could see in the presentation, Hannah created some great collages that include, historical photographs, but also perhaps a document that is connected to that particular person. And it was all put together in a way that made it much more interesting. So I think to sum it up, it depends on the context. What are you using the archival documents for? And then it also depends on how you depict them. And there's a big difference between just, posting a kind of a naked scan of a document versus actually using it and turning it into something visually more appealing as part of a broader kind of design concept. I don't know if Hannah wants to elaborate on that, or anyone else from Fabula.
First of all, I'm sorry that my video is, could you hear me? First of all, yes?
Yeah.
Yes.
For my video, my camera, I don't know, doesn't cooperate. So you can just see me on the pictures. So for me, it was a process. I so the cards were the starting point, but from the beginning I knew, okay, if we show the cards alone for the young audience, I think they will be super bored, and that's not the way to go. Obviously, it was important and to show them. So that was one of the criteria that I had to take into consideration, but I kind of had to look a bit out of the box and find a way to make not necessarily exciting pictures, often obviously sad pictures, visually interesting. It was like a constant questioning. Is it not too much? Is it not too little? Is it not too sad? Is it not too happy? Is it not too colorful? Maybe it's too dark. And not to mention all the other compositional elements. So it was a process. I remember I started simple, just combining the cards with some other images all in neutral colors, and it was just evolving into, yeah, the deeper you go, I don't know, the further you get, I would say. So it was just like lots of research, lots of cutting out images, trying out stuff, dropping some images and then replacing them. So I don't know if that answers the question, but perhaps if you would like to know more, just add some other questions on top of the previous one.
No, it absolutely answers the questions, and thanks for sharing details of the process. And I would just want to check if anybody from the Fabular team would like to add anything about that.
Anna was from the Fabular team, so I'm the only one here from the...
I'm asking about Leonardo and Nina, whether they would like to add anything.
Sorry.
Yeah, I think they covered very well all the aspects. I think what I can add is like, it was not a struggle. I think on one side you have the Arolsen Archives as the big institution, and having the archives as the main mission of the institution. And on the other hand, to have us, I tell you that I have done projects for museums before, so I understand like the importance of artifacts and the archive. So for me, this is clear. So that's why I'm telling that it's not a struggle, but I don't have a word perhaps to classify that in a better way. But it was like, on one hand, from our side, we're always thinking, okay, how can we make it more interesting? How can we make this more interesting? It was all the time like that. And I think from the Arolsen Archives was like more, okay, we want to portray the integrity of the archives. So I think this combination of the two parties led to something in the end very interesting, because we have the more colorful side, which the user can experience on the tours, but we always keep the reference to the archives. So you can, through the chatbot, you can open a web view and connect straight to the website where you have access to someone's file, for example. So there is this layer that's this research part.
And I also think this is like one of the reasons why such collaborations are so interesting, because of the negotiations that have to happen between like the people who are maybe more interested in the user experience or like the technical details, and then like the archival, let's say, perspective, not to oversimplify it, but I think these negotiations are really interesting. Yeah, so thanks a lot. And I'm just checking if there are any questions, because my last question is to Neringa, because your project was quite, like, has a lot in common with the Zapomniane Foundation project, like in terms of the database and the mapping of the sites. And I wonder, how did you collect the data? So like, because like, is that the data that you find in like archives, or were you also like traveling and doing field work? Like, what's your process behind the atlas?
Yes, thank you for the question. So actually this was like, we combined both. Yes, on one hand, we did really a very intensive, research in the archives and in Lithuania. Mostly, we worked at we worked with the criminal files from the former KGB archive. Yes, files on the perpetrators. Yes, that we were mentioning. How they participated, who were the victims, where it happened. Yes, so based on this information, we were able, also to locate the mass extermination sites. And also we cooperated with the Cultural Heritage Department, that we had, data from the Soviet times, because already during the Soviet times, let's say one, 1/3 of the places we were already marked. No, or let's say even, up to half of the places we were already, marked, but they were marked as the places of the places as, extermination sites of the Soviet citizens. So here we also had, to make, this cross-checking. Who are these, Soviet citizens? Whether they were local, people, yes, somehow, accused of being communists, whether they were, just people actually, who were killed during the first Soviet occupation in 1940s or criminals. Look, I mean, so we combined a lot of, sources, and of course we were working with the survivors, yes, as well. We were collecting like oral testimonies, and we cooperated with, of course, with other memory institutions, not only in Lithuania, but also with Yad Vashem, the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum, with, Father Debois. Yes, so he contributed, he helped us with the oral testimonies. I mean, this was, quite huge work, and also we cooperated with the researchers, yes, with the historians. And by the way, until that time, already, we had quite a huge amount of information collected at the Jewish Museum.
Okay,
yes.
I understand that. I see there's one question from Agnieszka, and this will be our last question because we all need to go to the well-deserved coffee break. So Agnieszka, go ahead.
I have a question also to Neringa, because like you said, and it was a surprise to me that most of the places were marked, at least with some board, before you came with your project. But would you agree that your project was the trigger for the local communities to come back to the sites? Because do I understand correctly that most of them were just forgotten and neglected, and there was no memorial practices around these monuments from the Soviet period time? So was your project, your atlas, a trigger for the local communities to start, maybe not even again, but just to start meeting at those post-Soviet era monuments and to perform some kind of memorial practices?
Yes, exactly. So for us, as I already, mentioned, it was very, very important, to connect the place, the memory, yes, to encourage local communities really to start to see, these places, to start to know about them. So actually this memory was alive because many of the places, really, they were shown by local people. Yes, I remember we used to go with my colleague, and we used to ask local people, can you show us, where is the memorial place, where is the mass extermination site of Jews? And very, very often local people, they used to tell us, but there are no Jews anymore. Yes, of course, we understand. Yes, such was understanding. So what are you looking here, for? There are no Jews. So what places you are looking for? So when we were talking in the woods, for the Soviet citizens. So then they, yes, we know. So this is about Jews. Yes, so okay. So they all, knew, but actually who exactly were, exterminated there? What are these places about? Of course, our first, mission was to pay attention, to start these places to be visible, to encourage people to go there, especially, but place, okay, you can put a marker, but that's it. If local community will not cooperate, will not, take care about the place will remain, dead. It will be forgotten completely. Yes? The marker does not mean, that the place will have memory. Yes, place have to be full of memory. When memory appears, when people start to talk, when people start to visit, when we organize these commemorational activities. Yes, for us, it was really very, very important, crucial. And, why we are talking about the Holocaust Atlas, it's not only, the database where you can find, different material, historical information. This is an alive, site. Yes, to encourage people to to do something, yes, to commemorate, yes. And also I did not show, but there is an opportunity for the local communities to share, you know, information about their commemorative activities. Yes, unfortunately, this is only in Lithuanian. Yes, but actually at the moment, this is the most important, this is the crucial, and I am very happy that, you know, yes, not such big success as Agnieszka, you know, mentioned with their project, but we are quite successful because, yes, we can see, you know, dynamic. We can see that local communities, they somehow, little by little, you know, you see 10 years, you know, after we launched this, but they you know, they somehow, they started to be more active. They started to be more involved into this.
Thank you so much. And actually, it's good to hear that. And, you know, like sometimes 10 years is a lot, but sometimes for like such big processes, it's not that long. So, you know, it's already something that you managed to activate these communities. So I can't see any other questions. So I would like to thank you all for taking part in this session and accepting our invitation. Thank you very much for your inspiring presentations. And now we will have a break until 6:30. And then we enter the last part of our program for today, which is the panel discussion closing the first day of this event. So thanks again very, very much to all of you for your amazing presentations, and see you very soon in half an hour. Bye.